Okay, in this video tutorial, I'm going to show you how to use Maya to block out this blade, which is based on the image right behind here. So, this image was found on the internet, and this is what it looks like on the internet. The original canvas space is this rectangular shape, so I need to change it into a square shape. And also I need to rotate the knife so that it is horizontal or completely flat. To do that, first of all, you go to the eyedropper tool in Photoshop and select the ruler tool. Okay, choose the two rivets here, or you know that this will actually form a straight line, or if you can find a straight line on the blade here at the edge here. Okay, and then you can use this to measure the precise angle which the blade is rotated. Okay, and then go ahead and click on image and image rotation, click on arbitrary, and then just leave everything in the value that is detected, and then click OK, and then Photoshop will straighten and level the knife for you. Now the next thing you want to do is to increase the canvas space so that it forms a square shape. To do that, go to image, canvas size, uncheck the relative, and make sure the width and the height values are the same. So I'm going to use the highest value, in this case is 38.542, and replace it with the height. So I'll end up with a square canvas. In this case my background is white and the image background is white, so I'm going to just click OK, and then I'm going to end up with this image. Okay, now the reference image is living in a square format. So this will be very useful when we bring it into Maya for our reference. So I'm going to save this. So I'm going to save it in my reference images folders, okay, or your source images folder in your Maya project folders. So I'm going to call this blade, and then hit save. And I'm not going to give it a high compression, and then I'm done. So now I'm going to switch over to Maya. I'm going to start a brand new scene, and the first thing I want to do is to create a square plane. So you can watch these two little windows here to see what kind of shortcut keys I'm pressing. So hold down to shift, right mouse click, and then choose polyplane. The default polyplane has subdivisions of 10 in the width and the height, so I do not want such a high value. So I'm going to select, holding down the shift, and select these two values, middle mouse click here, and reduce them to 1 by 1. And for the width and height, I'm going to increase it until it fills up the grid space. So this plane is going to be my texture reference. So I'm going to right mouse click and hold until the floating menu appears, and then I'm going to assign a new material. I'm going to give it a material called surface shader. And once you click on the surface shader, you go to attribute editor and click under the surface shader tab. Under the out color, click on the checker box here and choose file. And under the image name, click on the file icon, and if you've set your project folders properly, you should be able to access the blade image which we have straightened out in Photoshop. And then when you click on open, and we should see the texture appearing here. Now if you don't see the texture, press number 6 on your keyboard, alright, and you should see the texture appearing nicely on the image plane, or rather the polygon plane. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to select the polyplane, and then I'm going to press E to go to rotate, and I'm going to rotate this blade 90 degrees. Go over to your channel box and make sure you rotate it 90 degrees. Okay, so, and then I'm going to rotate it vertically in the y-axis another 90 degrees as well. Okay, then press W to go select the plane, press W to go to move, and I'm going to push this back until it is in this orientation. Alright, so I'm going to pull it up a little bit. Okay, the reason is very simple. If I press and hold on the space bar, the marking menu will appear, left mouse click. If I go to the front view, I should not see the blade at all. If I go to the right view, I should see the blade, or in its side view, proper orientation. Okay, so once I've set this, I'm going to put this plane into a layer. So make sure that the image plane is selected. Okay, or go over to your layer, your channel box and layer editor, click on this little icon here, and you add the selected object into its own layer. Then click on this empty box here a couple of times until it becomes R. So deselect by clicking on the empty space here, and then now when you try to click and move the image plane, it will not move, it stays in the same place. Now there are more than one ways to create the blade here. Okay, you can create a free polygon and start to stitch the shape around it. Okay, or I'm going to show you this method where I'm going to start off with just a simple polygon cube. Okay, and I'm going to put it in the right view, and then I'm going to just move the polygon cube until it lines up with the blade. Okay, so I can straight away go to the vertex level and start to select the vertices by dragging a box over them and start to block out the shape of the knife blade. Now if you know how this knife is being made, it's got this plastic handle. It's got two halves of the plastic handle that is clasped on the metal blade itself. So the metal blade is actually right in the center of this between this these two handle plastic pieces. Okay, so what I'm doing right now is that I'm just pulling the vertices of the box or the cube right until it is about the same size as the model itself. Okay, so I'm going to use the scaling to scale down the blade a little bit. Okay, so what I'm going to do right now is that I'm going to actually split this box into half. Now you can do this right in the beginning, but I'm going to use the insert edge loop tool. Okay, right mouse click, go to edge, hold down the shift, right mouse click on the edge itself, and then insert the edge loop. And when you click on inserting an edge loop, you'll be able to adjust the position of the edge. Now I want to insert the edge loop that runs right at the center of this box. So let me just press Z a couple of times to undo. Now one more time, holding down the shift, right mouse click, under the insert edge loop tool, click on the option box here, then click on multiple edge loops, reduce it to 1. Okay, and then if you click right now on the edge, you notice that the edge loop will cut right in the center. This will give us a perfect center edge loop that runs on the cube. Now I'm going to go to the front view, press Q to go to select, and I'm going to go to my face selection and select the faces on the left and delete them. So I should end up with a empty box, or rather half a box, okay, or what is formerly used to be a box. Then I'm going to select the cube, go to create, or rather edit, and then duplicate special, and then choose the option box. Now I want to duplicate it along the x-axis, so I'm going to change this value to 1, so everything is x, y, z. I want to change it by looking at the icon here. I want to create another mirror duplicate on the other side. So I'm going to, under the scale, I'm going to press -1, so I'll create a mirror version of the x-axis, and instead of a copy, I'm creating an instance. So if I click on duplicate special, you see that now I have a copy on the other side, and when I edit this edge, or rather this vertex, the other side will follow. Okay, so now I'm going to assign a material to it so that I can see through it. Now you can use the shading X-ray to look through the box, but I personally don't like this because it actually darkens the reference. So what I'll do is that I'll assign a brand new material, assign a new material for the object itself. I'm going to give it a new Lambert material. So because there's only 2 Lambert materials here, I'm going to just choose the Lambert 2 material, give it a slightly different color, and then give it a transparency, not too much, right? I'm going to assign the same material to the other half as well. So right mouse click and then assign existing material Lambert 2. So now I can see through this and I won't lose too much detail of the reference blade. So now I'm going to go back to my right view again, and then I can continue blocking the blade. So right now I've pulled the vertices until it more or less covers the blade. So the next step I need to do is to insert more edge loops so that I can get the shape out. So holding down to right mouse click and then going to edge, Then move the cursor over one of the edges holding down the shift, right mouse click, and then select insert edge loop. And you can start to insert the edge loop, but when you are doing so, make sure you insert the edge loops in areas where you need it. Okay, right now when I insert the edge loop, you insert the edge loop right in the center. So what I need to do is I need to go and change the insert edge loop options back to the default by clicking on reset to. Okay, the reason for this is very simple, so that I can insert the edge loop and then I can slide it in whichever location I want. So I'm going to insert one edge loop here. I already got one edge loop here. Pressing down the Q to go to select, and then right mouse click and hold to bring the marking menu for components. Select the vertex and start to move the vertices until you match the rough shape of your blade. Okay, you'll notice that I'm putting these two vertices very close together, because this is where the apex or the point of the blade meets. Then I'm just going to insert one more edge loop here. Okay, and then press Q to go back to select. To rough out the shape of the blade. Now try to resist the temptation to insert as many edge loops as possible on the get-go, because when you have too many edge loops, okay, you're going to spend a lot of time pushing and moving the vertices. So the trick here is try to get as little amount of vertices or as little amount of detail as possible to get the shape that you want. Okay, obviously the front of the blade here needs more edge loops, so that's what I'm gonna give it. So let's see if I can insert another edge loop. Okay, I'm gonna insert one more edge loop here. Okay, you need to select one edge and then go back to vertex selection and move the vertices into place. Okay, notice here there is a very obvious curve around here, so I will definitely need to have one edge loop here so that I can rough out or block out the rounded section here of the handle. So go back to edge again, shift right mouse click on a selected edge, and then you can insert the edge loop. Then press Q to go back to select, right mouse click hold to go select the vertex and push the vertex in to get it in place. Okay, so we are very close. So now we need to create the blade itself. Now if you look at the image, the reference image itself, okay, there is a very flat line here and then it recessed inwards here, so the blade is actually ground to go into an angle. Okay, and then at this point here, the blade is going to be even sharper. So we will try to create this big blade at this from this point here. So I'm going to use back my reference and I'm going to try to insert one edge loop that runs across the entire blade. Okay, let me just do that. Okay, insert one edge loop until I get one of the points to be here. Then I'm going to go to select the vertex, In fact, I'm just going to select these 3 rows of vertex. Alright, and then I'm going to press R to go to scale. Using scale, I'm just going to flatten this until they line up. Okay, and then perhaps this one, I'm just going to temporarily pull it back here again. And these, I'll just have to pull them up a little bit. Okay, so just gonna pull this down until I get a nice flow of the edge. So I'm gonna go to perspective, and then I'm going to grab the edge of the vertices. Okay, I'm gonna select the one on the right here, and grabbing only the vertices at the edge here, I'm gonna create my blade that is based on this recess here. Okay, and then just pull it in so that you have this sharp edge. Maybe move this in as well. And the top here as well. Okay, so that we have now created the recess. Okay, and then we need to insert another edge loop around here to create this even sharper recess around here, or rather the sharpened edge around here. So going back to edge mode, I'm going to insert one edge loop, and then I'm just going to bring this down. I think right about here. I can manually move these detail down a little bit later, and then I'm going to go back to my selection, and I'm going to go to vertex selection and push this back. You can even use your rotation. I'm going to rotate these vertices and then move them up. Now some of you might wonder how I know which vertex or vertex to move and where to move them in position. Well, this is called practice and experience. You need to practice a lot to know, and you need to make a lot of mistakes, because your first models are not going to look good. So you're just going to practice a lot, and eventually after a while you just figure out, you just know where to place your vertices and where to place your edge loops. Now eventually, if you want to subdivide this, it's best to keep the number of faces at 4-sided faces at all times. Otherwise you will not be able to keep a nice looking blade. Because if you know about computer graphics, 4-sided faces are ideal for subdivision. Okay, but that is not to say you can't use 3-sided faces, right? Okay, I think I'm just going to move this one down here, and then we'll figure out cutting out the notch out of this this area later on. Okay, so now we have blocked out the basic shape of the blade, and we also inserted the extra edge so that we can grab these. I'm going to grab this edge, and then I'm going to come down all the way here, holding down the shift double click, so you will select from this edge all the way to this edge, and then grab the move manipulator and move it until it's right at the edge here. So you have this very, very sharp blade that's going on here. Okay, and if you want it to be even sharper, you can grab this edge at the center here, come all the way here, and this one you have to go right at the center here, holding down the shift double click, so you can actually move this blade down. So now you have a super sharp blade that is blocked out. Now, in the interest of keeping this video short, I'm going to stop right here. Okay, and I'm going to just save this version, call this blade 2. And I'm going to show you the version which I've done earlier. Okay, so this one took a while, right, and a lot of figuring out to get the details in. Okay, so you can see I've also used I've used a knife tool to cut, to create all these notches. Now these notches are a challenge to create. So if you chose a blade to model with all this type of notches, as a beginner I wouldn't recommend modeling this, because it is very difficult, even at subdivision, right, to get it to look as accurate as this, because in the end you'll have to use a lot of edge loops or clever use of reflow methods to get the detail you want. So this one is still far from finished, okay, but you can see that I've moved the center portion of the vertices close together so to create the sharp looking blade. Alright, so this will be your initial stage, and then after a while you have to figure out how to create like the hole over here. And the handles itself, you can actually duplicate faces from these faces here, alright, and extract them, duplicate them and extrude them to create the handle. And then once you put everything together, right, you'll be able to get a nice looking blade. Alright, so let me just open up the initial blade again. Okay, and I'm going to right mouse click and hold, go to the material attributes and reduce transparency. Okay, so this is what the blade looks like. Okay, we didn't really spend a lot of time on this, but you can see I definitely need to add more edge loops or reflows, right, to get the detail that I want. So this is how you block out your, or rather block out the modeling of a knife blade.